So let me know if you can't hear me. During medical training, a great deal of time is focused on being patient-centered. In fact, there is even a mnemonic called FIFE to address this issue. The mnemonic reminds us to ask patients what are their fears, their ideas about their illness, and their feelings and their expectations. Yet despite this, it can be very difficult to appreciate what it is actually like to be a patient. In effect, we are not taught how to center ourselves as patients. The title of this project is therefore called Centering Ourselves as Patients. This project involved interviewing physicians who had had experiences as patients. One would expect that when physicians assume the sick role, their trials would enable them to develop deeper empathy for their patients as they experience healthcare from an unfamiliar perspective. This project aims to test this hypothesis and disseminate the knowledge acquired by these physicians by stitching together their narratives. I conducted interviews with Canadian doctors who developed health challenges over the course of their careers. They were asked to answer 3 questions. The first was, how did you feel when you were first diagnosed or being treated? The second was, how did someone or something in healthcare affect you in a positive way? And the final question was, how did you adapt to your health challenges? Lindsay Ziervogel, a Toronto artist who joins us today in the middle table, integrated their responses into the patchwork squares scattered across these 3 quilts, which represent the commonality yet uniqueness of each illness experience. Each quilt contains statements addressing one of these questions. Of note, Erin Becker, a GP in Victoria, helped me obtain ethics approval from the UBC Behavioral Research Ethics Board. So why quilts? Well, quilts allow a patchwork of ideas to be presented. The interviews were conducted with physicians from different regions across Canada who have, they were at different stages in their careers, and they had different diseases, and they were from different specialties. The quilt format brings this eclectic group together. Quilts are also symbolic for comforters or blankets that an ill person might use. Quilts are practical. They can be easily rolled up and sent to a conference or hospital that would want to display them. Most importantly, the quilts can be explored to varying degrees depending on how much time someone spends looking at them. This project has helped explore the intense feelings and fears related to being a patient. For example, the first quilt asks, how did you feel when you were being diagnosed or treated? This quilt describes the pride of being able to achieve physical goals while an illness is in remission. It describes the joy of realizing that a disease was resolved, the isolation of feeling that the illness has separated the patient from their peers, and the anger associated with miscommunication. For example, one physician stated, no one told me about the side effects, about treatment options, or implications of this disease. There was a lack of communication. I wonder if some of this is the fact that you're a doc and they think that you know what they're saying. The second quilt reveals how grateful patients are to various members of the interdisciplinary teams, from nurses to family physicians to respiratory technicians. The third quilt asks, how did you adapt to your health challenges? It addresses the inability to balance physical pain with the demands of medicine. It suggests that perhaps if a physician has a health challenge, it enhances their ability to be a healer. The third quilt also reflects how physicians change their clinical practice style because of their own illness experience. One of the key messages in this quilt is that you don't choose your disease. You choose how you will deal with it. These quilts reflect how a physician may react differently from a non-physician when they become a patient. The ill physician has a pre-existing medical knowledge base, which means that after being diagnosed, they get too much information too fast. Additionally, they are more prone to catastrophizing because they have been trained to consider the worst case scenario. Physicians may have difficulty surrendering control. There is a tendency towards multi-doctoring, queue jumping, and corridor consults. I would argue that this informal access to our healthcare system can actually worsen the outcome because of miscommunications due to going through and bypassing regular slower channels. It is disorienting for physicians to become patients because of the role reversal. One physician in this project commented, "You suddenly realize that you have no power, no authority, you're just a hunk of meat. You're surrounded by your colleagues, but you're just a patient. It's a humbling experience for anyone. You have no more rights than the patient in the next bed." The project makes us reflect on how physicians deal with having to put their care in someone else's hands. Some physicians may know how to manage their own disease, but it's evident that there are advantages for physicians to step back and simply be a patient. But this is hard. To demonstrate this, I would like to read to you a quote from a resident who I spoke to earlier this week, who's been treated for cancer. She shared this comment with me. "It's funny being a patient and knowing things and choosing not to do anything about it, feeling my lymph nodes and thinking, maybe it's nothing, but if it's metastases, I don't want to know. I'm not an anxious person, and I knew if the lymph nodes were bigger than 1 centimeter, it would be worrisome. And they were just these shoddy little nodes." So that resident got it checked out, and the nodes turned out to be Mets. She stopped her residency training again. She started chemo again. In her conversation with me, she continued on to say, "This time I'm trying not to be my own doctor. I'm just like, give me the hard facts and I'll deal with the emotions and you can do the chemo plan. I'm not looking everything up like the first time." Her story also demonstrates how I use the Quilt Project as a framework when I'm listening to a physician's narrative on their illness experience. It is as if I continue to mentally add patches to my quilts. With respect to the third quilt's question, how do you adapt to your health challenges? The same resident recently wrote in an email, "In my training, I learned the differences of denial, repression, and suppression. I have decided that I suppress things. This is a good thing. I am not in denial. I am not in denial about being in denial. For whatever reason, I see the bad, I feel the feelings, and I generally can turn the situation around. This is a gift." The Quilt Project has also affected my practice, and that has reminded me how difficult it is to communicate effectively. I suspect that this is going to be something that I will try to master for the rest of my career. Despite what they taught us in medical school, communication in stressful situations is more than simply the mnemonic fife. Since its creation in 2007, the Quilt Project has been presented at several conferences and has hung in clinics where UBC medical residents train. At one of these conferences, Melissa Lem, a family physician who also joins us today, composed and recorded 3 beautiful pieces of music based on the quilts, and they were presented with it. I hope that the quilts continue to be shared in various ways across Canada. I'll leave you with one final story about a recent experience of mine. A few weeks ago, I was on my honeymoon in Nepal. I was at extreme altitude, which means that your feet feel like lead, and you get out of breath drinking a glass of water. It was quite cold, there was no running water, and I was sharing a room with 3 other people. And then the gastroenteritis kicked in. Except I didn't think it was gastroenteritis, of course. I thought it was probably severe COPD and maybe mesenteric ischemia or a bowel obstruction. Of course, it could have been the altitude. And I lay awake in pain, repeating to myself that this illness was going to make me more compassionate. I valiantly tried to convince myself that this gastroenteritis, or mesenteric ischemia, at 5,000 meters above sea level was going to make me a better doctor. I'm not sure if it will. But the self-pep talk did distract me. Although I found some humor in this situation, it was inspired by the following comment by a physician. I learned by being a patient how to be a much better physician or healer. If physicians have a personal health experience, it's a gift. You can't go looking for these experiences, but if they come, there's a silver lining on the cloud. They can be very skilled clinicians, but they move up to a level where they're more than a skilled physician. They become a healer. By weaving together the narratives of these physicians, we turn a negative situation into a positive new reality.